Well, thank you. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world and for those who have passed away in our community. Thank you. Somebody. Here. Somebody switched up on me here. I'm already vertically challenged. Thank you. Mr. McAndrew, very kind of you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl? Here. Mr. Schuster?
Present.
Dr. Rothchild? Here. Mr. McAndrew?
Present.
Mr. King?
Here. Please dispense with reading of the minutes.
Third order, 3A, correspondence received June 28, 2023 from OECD regarding code enforcement report. 3B, Scranton-Lackawanna Health and Welfare Authority combined financial statements for the years ended December 31st, 2021 and 2022, and independent auditor's report.
Are there any comments on any third order items? If not, received and filed. Any council members have any announcements at this time?
I just have one. For a limited time, PPL is doing a neighborhood recycling. They're picking up refrigerators, dehumidifiers, window air conditioners, small appliances like that. But you have to call and schedule. You can either put it at the curb, they'll pick it up, or you can register on their site for an in-home pickup, such as a refrigerator. But if you go to their website, it's ppl.com, and then look for recyclable, and you can get to that. And there's also a 1-877-486-9204, and then they'll schedule to pick up your appliances. That's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I have one. So tomorrow, July 7th, from 5 to 9 p.m., the Scranton School District Uniform Fundraiser is hosted by the Scranton Police Department. $10 donations, all proceeds will benefit uniforms winter coat drive for the children of the Scranton School District. It's at the VFW Post 25 on 2291 Rockwell Avenue. There'll be live entertainment by Friend of a Gypsy, and it also includes dollar drink specials, pizza, and 50-50 basket raffle. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McAndrew. Anyone else?
Yes, I have two announcements. First, this Saturday, there will be a fundraiser for the NEPA Youth Shelter, and that'll be taking place at the Post Ice Cream and Event place on 625 Deacon Street. And that's going to be a tie-dye fundraiser, so it's something that's kid-friendly. You could just bring a T-shirt and you get to tie-dye it, but they also ask that you bring a donation, and some of the items that they need that you could bring include Acne face wash and pads, men's knit boxer underwear, ladies' bras, hair gels, hair clips of any size, headbands, nail clippers and files, and nail polish remover. Or you can make a monetary donation. And that's going to be this Saturday from 1 to 3. And then the other announcement that I had was the passing of someone within the community, Rika Schaefer, and she was a very large part of the Scranton Jewish Community Center. She was a teacher, and then she was the early childhood development director for many years, and even after retiring, continued to be very involved there. So she had passed, I believe, on Sunday, and services took place on Monday. And she was Israeli American, so Shiva will be taking place in Israel this week. But that's all that I had. My condolences to her family.
Thank you. Anyone else? I failed to mention Louise Clark passed away. She was a former principal at I think, Whittier Elementary School. I worked with her, many years ago, and I attended her funeral on Saturday. She was a great person, a great school administrator and educator, so we're sad to see her pass. Frank, fourth order.
Fourth order, citizen participation.
Joan Hodowanitz.
Joan Hodowan at Scranton. Any idea when we might see the property tax database on the city's website?
I don't have an update on that at this time.
Okay. How about the status of the arbitration on the police union's contract?
Oh, Joan, I think I have it in fifth order.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
All
I
right.
apologize. Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm sorry.
Okay,
We'll give you,
fifth-
I'm going to give you some of your time back here. I apologize.
Okay.
Oh, boy, getting off track here. Property tax database. So you asked about...
Arbitration
Yeah.
on the police union contract. If you could give that to me in fifth order, then.
Sure.
Watching TV the last couple weeks, it was interesting to note that most of the Weather Channel and National Weather Service are talking about the fact that we may have more smoke hazards all through the summer because they don't expect the wildfires in Canada to be extinguished until the fall, which re-raises the question, what will the city do if there's another code red? What are you going to do about the homeless population? Now, I looked at the information that Dr. Saxena put on third order the other week, and I looked at her page on the website, and there isn't a whole lot of information. On the website, she's listed a website for Scranton Air Quality Index with nothing further on that. And then the information she gave you for third order under emergent public health issues, the last sentence says, recently released health alerts and guidance to keep safe from wildfire smoke. The question still stands. What are you going to do for the homeless? You have a code blue in the winter where you allow them to come indoors when it gets so cold. Code red, the guidance that the government's giving is you stay indoors. The homeless are outdoors 24/7. You need a plan. And she's getting paid $120,000 a year by the Moses Taylor Foundation. And I know the mayor wants to make her position permanent. That's fine. But she should be able to give us some specifics. Those people are not throwaway people just because they're homeless. And I want to know. I've asked before. When are we going to see an RFP for the HUP test?
I believe that they put an RFP out and they didn't get a response.
Right, they're going to
So,
reissue an RFP. When will that reissue come out?
I'll
Okay.
check on that.
Okay. The walkability study, I saw that the City Planning Commission is reviewing it, but what is the next step? Where do we go from here? Are we going to have study groups? Are we going to have focus groups? What is the city planning to do? And I'd also like to know what's the next step on the stormwater. I see that Clerk Summit gave it a tentative thumbs up, assuming that's not going to cost them any money. But where do we go from here? We've been hanging fire on the stormwater issue since we sold the sewer authority back in 2016. So we need some kind of way forward. What it was the city planning to do on both walkability and stormwater. And finally, I just want to make a comment. I come here every week for the public caucus, but it's always very annoying to sit in that front row and not be able to catch much of what you're all saying. Maybe the solution is microphones at every chair there. Maybe you need to project your voices, but you can't call it a public caucus if someone sitting in the front row can't hear you. I mean, isn't that why Jeff Horvath has to sit at the table just to hear what's being said? So please come up with a solution. It was more audible when we were in the city clerk's office. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. Les Spindler.
Good evening, Council. Les Spindler, city resident, homeowner. Yesterday, my wife and I attended a cookout at a friend's house. On the way home, about 9:30, we're driving down the road. It wasn't a well-traveled road, but in the street on the side, people are shooting off fireworks. They were going maybe just 10 feet in the air, but they were going out into the street. I had to go into the other lane so my car wouldn't get burned by those fireworks. I mean, you guys can make all the rules you want. Make it $1 million fine. If the rules aren't enforced, nothing's going to happen. I read the paper today where they had one patrol woman to do the whole city. Erica Haynes was her name. She responded to a few calls, gave some citations, but the way I read it, she was the only one out of the whole police department that she had to cover the whole city. I think that's just ridiculous. One person cannot cover the whole city. And I know they had probably hundreds of calls. Whoever came up with that was, I don't know. I don't think they're that smart. Anyway. Oh, but damn, I still have more. That's right. We got home, and my dog would not go out to go to the bathroom. I had to wait till like 11 o'clock till it finally calmed down. But then when the dog would go out, I went upstairs in our bathroom. One of our cats was hidden in a little space between our toilet and the wall. He never did that before. He was scared to death. I mean, it's just out of control. I mean, like I said, if the ordinances aren't enforced, what good is it? We need more. Why don't they put code enforcement people out there? Make them authorized to give tickets out if there's not enough police officers. Something more has to be done. It's just out of control. Now, a guy on Talkback 16 today said they should ban them, and I don't disagree with him. If you want to see fireworks, go to a professional show. And also in that article today, the guy had to get his garden hose out because his awning caught on fire. And that patrolwoman Haynes was called to a house that got hit by fireworks. And she cited people there. One person cannot patrol the whole city. I mean, it doesn't take rocket scientists to figure that out. Okay, the walkability study again. A few days in the paper, the gentleman that owns Subway on Washington Avenue, and I guess the pizza place that is next to it, he thought it was a good idea. He said it's going to make walking safer. I would love for him to explain to me how it's going to make walking safer. As I said last week, now if a blind person comes at the corner, the lights, or something beeps, and that's how they know how to walk. If there's stop signs, they're not going to know when to walk to cross the street. Same with disabled people in wheelchairs. How anybody can explain to me that that's a good idea. I would love to hear their explanation. Like I said, it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, as I said last week. Does anybody up there think that that's a good idea to put stop signs in place of traffic lights? Well, I guess your silence tells the story. I guess you agree with me.
We'll speak in fifth order on that.
Okay. Next thing. I'm watching the news tonight. Here we go again. More mass shootings. 5 people killed in Philadelphia. And I forget a few other states where mass shootings. And as I stated before, as long as we have Republicans in power who bow down to the NRA, we'll never have gun control. These mass shootings will just continue. So people have to wake up and get these Republicans out of office who have the NRA in their pockets. And, until maybe people in their family are affected, maybe they'll do something then. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spindler. Ron Ellman?
Hello, Council. Many years ago,
Thank you.
I cleaned up, pardon?
Guys, please, when someone's speaking, I'd appreciate if we don't talk so we can hear them. Thank you.
All right.
I apologize.
I cleaned a swimming pool for one Robert Preston. He was a World War II naval ace flyer. That time he owned Flying Tigers Airline, and that's like saying what FedEx would be now. One day, sitting at the pool having a beer with him, and a friend of his came over named Joe Pine, that was a TV personality then. And they started talking about a property Mr. Pine had for sale. He said something along the lines, he'd bought this house years before because it was everything he wanted, except it was next to a black couple. He said, I didn't let that interfere with my buying the house one bit. But now that he got the house for sale, he said, nobody wants to live next to this family. And I don't know what the conclusion was, but 2 weeks ago, I did the same thing and it backfired. I said, I learned to live with the mayor. The next day, I read about this atrocious waste of our money on a walkability. You know, why didn't somebody just buy a book about it? Or all the people in this administration, I don't know how many that is, all the heads in this administration, you couldn't come up with the same thing by just having a meeting like y'all did right here tonight. $240,000 down the drain. You know, I bet Speck and his colleagues just laugh all the way to the bank. This was a real con job. That's not just my opinion. That's what I hear 3 or 4 times a week the last couple of days. I don't know, next, maybe the mayor buy a bridge or two or start advertising in New York City to come to Scranton to shop. You know, downtown is I guess the residents are mostly transits. They're not working people and tax-paying ownership people. I don't see where they need a walkability plan. The bicycle plan, that's ridiculous too. This is nothing but an abortion plan for downtown. It's an absurdity. It said extend sidewalks. I've stood here for years. I got across the street, 1 block from me, there's no sidewalks. 2800 block North Scranton, on both sides of the street, there's no sidewalks. There's 100-year-old crumbled up slate sidewalks. Directly across the street of my house is a slate sidewalk that's falling apart. Now taxpayers be asked to pay for sidewalks downtown to extend them into the street. This plan is, I don't know. I think it just failed because it's going to be such an expense after it started. And like Dave said last week, you're talking about taking something, these lights and so forth, that cost millions to put back together like they belong. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ellman. That exhausts the sign-in list. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard?
Tom Coyne, Manuka. Members of council, last week I tried to make a point and question how often the city re-verifies the residency of an employee. During this, I pointed out that Scranton Police Officer Halleck was a possible person who may have lacked a residency waiver. I have always stated that words matter, especially in legal documents, and words do matter. I took the stance from a WNEP article, and I failed to read it properly. In the article, it said he died over the weekend at a home in Kingston. I missed the in that article. As I read it, at home in Kingston rather than at a home in Kingston. I would not have made a mistake had they put visiting a home in Kingston, as that would have made it clear. Nonetheless, I missed a simple letter A in reading it, and it changed the entire context. Words matter. So I have to take this moment and retract my statement and correct it, because that does matter as well. To not address my error would compound it, and it is the right thing to do. My apologies to anyone who I may have offended with my error. Now moving on to public safety. The picnic back in Manuka at Davis Street. I took the opportunity to take a look at the officer who was crossing people across this Davis Street, as it's now a well-traveled and heavy-traveled route. I noted a few things as I was just observing him crossing people. One was the police car was where it was parked. I asked him if the headlights on the vehicle needed to be on since he had all of the emergency lights on, because I identified that, well, the vehicle was parked where it was with headlights on. The headlights were actually blinding people coming up the hill from the Taylor Avenue side, and having parking lots and the emergency lights on would have been much safer, because then you would not be looking at headlights pointing directly down the street. He had a vest on, a traffic vest on, as he should have. It was opened up, and that was perfectly fine. But what I did notice is he lacked direction control batons, like they usually have at parking lots for events, the flashlights with the cones on them, to make it visible. He took a regular flashlight and he would flick it at traffic that was oncoming, which didn't offer the visibility that it really needed at the intersection, as there are really not adequate lights at that crosswalk, as it usually isn't needed. I asked him about the cones, and he said they don't have any cones. I asked him, would they want them? He said, well, an officer beforehand that he saw used those cones, and he got hit with a car anyway, so it really doesn't matter. You just have to pay attention. Using that same logic, an officer with a gun gets shot. Does that mean no officer should carry guns because that doesn't matter? I'm concerned about this because when you're in a crosswalk at an intersection with headlights coming up and down, the crosswalk is dark, and you're there as a crossing guard, visibility is important for the police officer and the people who are actually physically crossing across the street. They had some flares on the ground to draw attention in the center, but really it was not visible, especially for the young children who were crossing that street, to not have flashlights with the cone batons like you see at airports or you see in parking lots where they direct people. For the safety of the citizens, it would be nice to see if we could get that safety equipment purchased and to have police officers equipped and using them when they're running these safety patrols. Not only for the officers, but for the reason they're there is to protect the people from vehicles that are crossing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coyne.
Good evening, Virgil Argenta. I'll start off. When I come here, it's because I'm concerned and I care. I get the feeling that I just get appeased or I get ignored. I have asked over the weeks for an inventory list of all city-owned properties, a list of all city vehicles, take-home cars, and by who, a list and cost of porta labs. They're all over the city. I've asked about the homeless camps, the updates. I brought to attention about the propane tanks. Now there's an electric cord running down on Railroad Avenue from 7th, and I'll show you the pictures soon, running into a homeless camp with electricity now. 2 people have been burned over the last couple weeks with the propane tanks. 1 person was stabbed 2 days ago, and when the police went to the camp to find the other individual, propane tanks were exploded inside the tents before the police were able to go in, or the fire department, to address it. This is an issue. I don't want to be appeased. Something needs to be done. As Joan said, these homeless people are human beings as well. There was a stabbing that took place at 9:30 in the morning at Lackawanna and 7th. That's a problem. It's broad daylight. Lackawanna Avenue's the gateway to West Side, and it's the gateway to town. And I have an issue with that, because I put you guys on notice with that. The fire bills. I had another person contact me with a fire bill for $8,700. The Scranton School District burnt an apple turnover last week at headquarters. Is the school district going to get a bill? Weston Field. I asked on the structural condition of the Weston Field bathhouse. Did I get anything yet? The pool is still closed, but there's Job Johnnies there. I asked about the clock on Lackawanna Avenue. That's been like that for years at 11:20. I had given a list of over 175 vacant, distressed, condemned properties all over the city. I'm no stranger. I'm Victor Arnetta. I post daily on the properties and the condition of the city. Safety issues. I've reported safety issues throughout this city, day in and day out. There's one in the 1400 block of South Main Avenue where the woman has 2 children and a dog. The hole is 4 feet deep, and it's been a year and a half. Totally unacceptable. I asked about the Rubicon. You're in for a surprise with Rubicon. I'll tell you that much. Weston Field, the takeover of the Weston Field on the weekends. Any input? The same thing happened over the weekend. Only thing was that the director was down there trying to get a little bit of order. It was still out of control. The other day, driving past Engine 9, I don't know if it was a signal or what, but truck 1 had a paper on the window like an 8x12, and it said out of service. We all know what that means. The ones that know, we know. Are we headed for another brownout from previous administrations? The pride flag is still standing. Pride month is over. If you want to do flags and you want to have the flag parties and whatever you want to have, I need a list of the properties. Pick a lot, pick a park, put as many flags as you want. City Hall, people's building should be an American flag and American flag only, period. And if I may, and if you elected officials, if you're okay with the administration ignoring you with all your questions and issues and you can't get answers, and our mayor would rather parade around the state and tell other people how to do things, we'll have an issue with that. We taxpayers, we're not happy to it, and we don't agree with it. So what is our recourse of action as taxpayers so we can get the answers that you can't? It's tired of asking you guys questions, and you say administration never got back to me. Well, you know what? Administration better start answering to somebody, because we taxpayers are the investors in this city that you're pissing our money away. Now, if I may approach.
Yeah, I would appreciate, keep the language. Thank you. That's all right.
I'm sure you've heard worse. This is today at Fellows Park. This is Gary's for a week straight. This is the 14th South Main for a year and a half. Mr. Smurl, you'd be interested in this one on Losing Street. West side of town, Vitale's Market. It's a sin that you have to do that. This is the outlet for the new homeless camp that has electricity. Today I spoke, and I had the Pennsylvania American Water come down there and test that, and that's power in that. And this is the Washburn Street Cemetery. You guys can, that's a sin, it's a disgrace. You guys can pass that all around. And what happens bad enough we have vacant and distressed properties. A property like that devalues all of our properties when we try to go refinance and try to get loans. And what it does to our fire insurance with the distressed properties, that's sinful. Thank you, guys. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Argenta. Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard?
It happens every year. People end up taking people.
Good evening, Council. The adoption, resident, taxpayer, taxes paid, didn't get as much of a guff out of the deputies going down the county building this year. Last year, I felt like I know how an inmate feels. You know, I reached an arrest with the way they shook me down. So my compliments to this year. I was at the Scrantastic celebration, and there's one observation I saw. They really took the street blockades down a little too early, and there was cars speeding through there when people were trying to cross the streets and get to their cars. I think I got to my car about 20 after 10. So I really recommend that you block off the street, Spruce Street, Biden Street, whatever you want to call it, right at the top at Jefferson Avenue, and don't let anybody through unless they're a vendor or something like that. Until 10:30. 2 weeks ago, a train accident was mentioned, and in 2018, in the White House, regulations were relaxed on train safety and transportation safety and bank failures. The bank that failed was that Silicon Valley. There was 8,100 payroll accounts, not 8,100 checks not met on payday as a result. And that's what you get with lax federal regulations, but it's very lucky because we have Bounty, the quicker picker-upper. Okay, and there was a letter in the paper. I have complained about this before. Can't control it. Nothing to do with you guys. But it was from a person from Abington telling us to build a pool already. What does he have to do with Scranton? Abington's wealthy enough. Why don't they build a pool? You know, and we can come up there one time and we can start out with $0.25 a day admission. Now, I have a little statement to make here. We astutely study our astute studies to ensure our astute studies were properly astute to ensure properly that our astuteness of our studies. And we get these studies like this traffic thing with Scranton downtown. I personally think that, you know, towns would come back by normal means because people will get tired of traveling all the time. I was 20 minutes away from work up in Susquehanna County. My boss moves to Music. 500 miles a week. You know, back and forth, back and forth. All I could afford to do was get some old clunker and put it back together again and drive it till it dropped and get another clunker. And after 6 days a week, I got to go out on Sunday and try and fix the old clunker. You know, it wasn't a good lifestyle after a while. And the traffic signals torn down, I mean, would they have to be re-inspected, recertified, or out of date? and they're only there because they're grandfathered in. And how much dollars for a redo? Do we really need bikes downtown? You know, in Europe, the Netherlands are flat. I rode a bicycle in Jersey when I was a kid on vacation. Pretty pleasant. It's not pleasant in Scranton. You have to more or less plan your route so you're not on a hill forever. And then the money that's been lost. 500 Lackawanna Avenue, $30 million. The Hilton defaulted on $5 million. The mall defaulted. I mean, we just keep spending money and lending money, and where does it go? Not to us. I mean, it's years before you were ever here. Thank you for the
Thank you, Mr. Dobson.
your tolerance. Have a good night.
You too.
Good evening, Marie Schumacher, citizen and taxpayer. Could someone tell me what has happened to the pilot, the payment in lieu of taxes program? Has a committee been formed or a strategy of how that's going to
There was
be
an
increased?
RFP put out, Marie. There was an RFP put out to have a company go and evaluate. It's called the HUP test. I think you've heard us mention that. So the HUP test, they would go in and evaluate whether they qualify for.
No, I'm talking about the people who are right now not paying, not whether they are entitled to that, but that even if they have been given that right, it is their responsibility to do something for the city in lieu of paying those taxes.
I know the administration has been reaching out to quite a number of nonprofits to try to encourage them to, you know, since they are a nonprofit, they're not required to. So you know, it takes some convincing to try to get nonprofits to realize they should be contributing in some way, shape, or form to the city.
I think a lot of other taxpayers would like to see how many of those are being held a week, and what is happening, if we're getting anything out of that or not. But we deserve to have something in lieu of them paying taxes. Now, I come here regularly. I've been doing it for, I think, a couple of decades now, and nothing seems to change. And my friend here, who will be up here in a minute, I think, is we've been walking down and around town, and it really is depressing to look at all of the empty buildings that we have. I tell him what I used to buy in that empty store when I was in high school, but doesn't bring it back. What is anybody doing to turn this around? I don't know. I would like to ask each of you to tell me what difference you will see in this city 5 years from now that is different from what it is today. Dr. Rothchild, you want to start?
You want us to do that right now? That might be better in fifth order, because I have a number of things that I would like to see changed. Yeah, I could.
Okay, or a goal? Do we have
I'd love
any?
to prepare
Do we
you a
have
whole
any?
list, and we have plenty of goals.
Or what would be a good goal so that we achieve? You achieve what you set your target on. If we don't have a target to have something different at the end of 3 years and 5 years and 10 years, then you're not going to work through it. Nobody does. Everybody's busy. And okay, anybody else have anything you see different
Well, what I want to see different is, of course, the decrease of blight and these abandoned, decrepit properties taken care of. And I also want to see an increase in public safety, because crime's an issue and gangs are an issue. So I'd like to see the police department in tandem with the state police form a task force and work on them issues. They're the two biggest things I'd like to see happen in 5 years.
Okay, thank
But I'd
you.
like to see them happen next year, but,
Yeah. But yeah, Mr. King?
I'll answer in fifth order.
Okay.
So I get frustrated as well. I know that we do have, 10 new code enforcement vehicles. Blight has been the thing that I get addresses every week. These addresses go on a list. We get a little bit of feedback from what's going on, but I'm not really seeing any movement on them. The addresses keep building up. With those vehicles, with the extra staff that they have, I'd like to see the blight addressed. Right now, I'm not seeing it done. We have a park study that's been completed. I'd like to see some of the work getting done with the parks to maintain the parks and then from the maintenance, improve the parks. I think we have $68 million here that I hope when it's spent and over with, the city's going to look different than it looks today, because there's a real opportunity. It's a one-time opportunity that we have. And I think NAOG is a good example of something that we could take some of that money and use it to better the lives of our citizens here.
Okay, Ms. Rowe, you luck out. I'm out of time.
That's fine. I'll give you my idea in fifth order.
Thank you, Mr. Schumacher.
Hello, I'm Eli Virchuk from Scranton, and I am wondering why the Renaissance Park, it was Monday, we were there doing operating hours according to the sign on the gate, and, the gate was locked, and the bottom door to the elevator was locked as well. Well, this afternoon we went back up there, and the gate was this time opened, but yet the bottom door to the elevator was locked. The top was open, but when we went in to push the button for the elevator, there was no response from the elevator. No sounds, nothing. And I was wondering...
What's the name of that?
Over by the clock that has a long time, I think the Renaissance...
Oh, on Lackawanna Avenue.
Yes,
Oh,
on
I see what you're
Lackawanna
saying. Okay. So you're saying the elevator door was not working or was locked?
The elevator door was locked on the bottom, and the elevator's not responding to the button or anything.
Okay, we'll look into that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tyler Day, Scranton resident. I just wanted to talk briefly about the minimum wage resolution that's coming up for a vote. I read it today. It's a nice resolution. It's a pretty much toothless resolution. I would probably vote for it. I mean, the House is gone. The House is finishing the budget today. The Senate's gone. So it's a little bit late for that. And at this point, unless you're 15, 16 years old or a tip worker, which is a completely separate class of worker, you're probably not making minimum wage anyway. So as nice as that is, though, if we really do want to raise the wages of people in the city, in the county, and in northeastern Pennsylvania, it's going to be through economic development. It's going to be through job growth. Talking to many business owners in the city like I have, and business owners from surrounding communities who could probably, it would probably be cheaper for them to be in Scranton just looking at real estate costs. They do everything they can to not be in the city because of the burdens that are attached to being in the city. So as nice as this is, I hope in the next months, years, we look at making it easier for businesses to start in the city, making it easier for businesses to grow in the city, so wages can rise, because a rising tide lifts all boats. Government can't create wealth. Government can't create artificially higher wages. So thank you.
Thank you.
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Mr. Smurl, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes, I do, a few. The first is the NAOG pool complex. We have received 2 proposals for the pool update, construction and design. Once the city chooses one of the proposals, and then we can move forward with more funding and the residents meetings and stuff to discuss what the residents actually want to be included in this project. I believe that we are going in the right direction by applying for all the funding that's available to us. I also believe you just don't throw a pool in without having some kind of an idea how we're going to pay for it. And also include all of the residents in the city of Scranton to decide how we're going to do that. If we plan and organize this entire project now for future funding to include maintenance, repairs, and what we're going to do to keep up on the pools instead of having them be neglected like they have been in the past 20 years, that would be the right way to go. And I also, by securing funding and stuff now, that will eliminate any reason to take a loan out for a pool or cause tax increases for that. I understand nobody likes feasibility studies. No one likes to pay for them. I certainly don't like study after study, but there's reasons why they have to be done, and we need these designs and construction updates, because you just can't just go up and decide to put a pool somewhere and spend $7 million and not know what you're going to do. But I have, since the day I was appointed to council, been on the pool complex of NAOG Park. Every chance I get, I ask the administration about a pool. This is something I've worked on from the first day, and this is something I will not give up on. So that's NAOG Park. I hope we move forward shortly with picking who the company is going to be. The other thing, what I see for Scranton in the next 5 years, God, we were just handed the walkability study. I know everyone doesn't agree with it, but when I was told the study for downtown, and I couldn't imagine how removing traffic lights and changing streets from 2-ways to 1-ways would be make it safer for pedestrians or even grow businesses in downtown. So I read the entire study. I went to Lackawanna College to hear the presentation. So when you see the statistics and how many people, how many accidents we have, how many pedestrians are struck by automobiles in Scranton, how many people die from getting run over, it kind of makes you realize we need to change the way our downtown controls traffic, and it would just make it better. So I thought about one day I was driving up Linden Street, and I see 3 green lights ahead of me, and all I see is a 1-way street with 2 big lanes and a line in the middle. I try to make the 3rd light the most unsafe thing you can do. I'm not the only one that does it, because there's people passing me on my other side. So we have to figure out a way to make it safer, slow traffic down, and this isn't something that's going to be done overnight. This is going to be many years. We're looking at a 5-year plan. This may be an 8 or 10-year plan, but that is one way that we can deal with changing our downtown. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Smurl. Mr. Schuster?
Yes, I have a couple. I have 2 updates, a couple addresses, and some other things. So Rubicon, the only update I have on Rubicon is last week we were thinking that they would be in to give an update. Chris Smith and some of the people from Rubicon, it looks like at this point in time it's going to be delayed until September, so we're not going to get that update in July as we hoped. The Weston Field structure over at Weston Field, the response that we got. So I was looking into what are the conditions, what are we looking at for repairs, but the response that we got was just simply, sorry for the late response. We have funding allocated for the project and have conducted structural assessments. Prior to moving forward any plans, we just need to meet with the project engineers to discuss the plans for the pools, the buildings, and the space outlined in the parks plan. So that's an update on the Weston Field. I have 3 addresses, Mr. Voldenberg. One is 427 10th Avenue, and the other is 419 10th Avenue. And then I have the 317 Oak Street. It's the rear address. It's one I've put in the past, but I got another call about it. as well as street sweeping. I got a call about street sweeping on Wyoming Ave over in Greenridge. They say that they've seen the street sweeper on other streets, but Wyoming Ave hasn't seen it in quite some time.
I'll look into it, sir.
The last thing, there's some funding going into the facades on Main Avenue, and some of that ARP money was supposed to be dedicated to projects along Main Avenue. I would like to see our Main Avenue from our borders in Taylor and West Side all the way over to our borders in Dixon City and in North Scranton. I would like to see Main Avenue revitalized while we're here, to look like the way it looked when I was younger or prior to me being born, because I always did love Scranton's Main Avenue. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Schuster. Dr. Rothchild?
Okay, I have another number of things, so I'm going to try to move through them quickly, but a couple of emails that we'd received, I think at least one or two of them was not forwarded to you yet, Mr. Voldenberg, so I'll send them if you haven't received them. One of them was about the 1600 block of Linden Street, someone requesting permit parking, who's interested in having that on the street because of difficulties parking, a lot of employees from the hospital parking, and some other households having a lot of vehicles. I think they said one household had up to 6 cars, and other people from other streets parking there. That really limits them. So if we could get in touch with him and explain the process to be able to get permit parking, if it's appropriate there.
I will, Dr. Rothchild.
Okay. And received a complaint about an overgrown empty lot that's on Taylor Avenue. I believe it's 429 Taylor Avenue, and found that it was an absentee landlord for that property, an LLC, which we have a lot of problems with. And they did receive a notice of violation, so the next step is a quality of life ticket if that is not, if that's not resolved. And so that seems like that'll be the likely case. And we'd received a couple emails from someone who lives on Clearview Street, and they have not been getting the garbage picked up there. They said 1700, 1800, and 1900 blocks of Clearview Street that had not been picked up, and that was as of like 4 o'clock this afternoon that it still hadn't been. So if we could get TPW over there to pick up the garbage, I'm not sure why it's being missed there. And I had mentioned about previously about properties that had fires, and that about the tracking of it and how council could be better informed, because we do receive complaints about those properties and questions as to when they're going to be taken care of, if they're on the demo list, if they're condemned, et cetera. So I would appreciate it if we could get a regularly updated list sent to us. I know that also has to do with like Act 29 through the Treasury Department. They have a list there. So if we can get like a regular status update on those properties, if we could request that, Mr. Voldenberg.
Yeah, I'll ask if they would expand on those lists.
Okay, thank you. And something I've been asking for a long time has been a list of the handicap parking violations in the city, and I finally received it, so I'm happy about that. And they included both 2022 and 2023, and I didn't have doubts that they were giving out violations to those parking in those handicap spots, but I do also want to compare to, once we make the signs more visible, especially downtown, if that has an impact on the number of violations, if people aren't violating it as much and they're more aware of where they're parking. However, I didn't really notice a whole lot of streets that were located downtown that were on that list. So I'm assuming it's more of like people who have a handicap spot in front of their house and then call that someone is in their spot, and then a police officer comes and tickets them as a result. So I would like to ask for some more patrols downtown, or when the downtown patrols are around that area, if they could flag some of that parking, especially the one on Penn Avenue that people really seem to frequently violate, if they could keep a closer eye on that. I didn't see that one on there at all, and anytime I'm near that spot, I see that someone's parked in it who doesn't have the handicap placard.
I'll take care of it, Doctor.
Great, thank you. And for the paving list, we had brief conversation about this in caucus. I was disappointed that a number of streets were taken off of the paving list, but that was because American Water has bigger projects planned for them within 2024, and then they will be paved, so it doesn't make sense for the city to dig them up and pave them now for them to be dug up by American Water, which is what we typically try to avoid. But I do understand the frustration that people have, because those who had been waiting for a long time, like say Mr. Raines on Monroe Avenue, and that's like one of the streets that was on there. There's one on the 600 block of North Webster we've been asked about for a while. Those are some of the ones that are being kicked off to the side until American Water takes care of them, and people who have been waiting for years for their streets to be taken care of, and they were finally on the list. So I do understand that, and I wish there was a way that we could have avoided that, but it sounds like they will be done in 2024 with the American Water projects, but that's if they're on time. So I think we need to continue to stay on top of American Water and the utility companies, and make sure that the paving is being completed and the projects are being completed. So if people do have an issue as the projects are occurring, then I would really encourage them to contact us or contact the city for us to help resolve those issues as they come up. And let's see, I did have a list of a few things from Ms. Schumacher, who had asked about what some of the priorities were for the next 5 years. So I could tell you what my priorities would be and what things I would really like to see improve with the city over that time, but just thinking about the future. So blight has always been my number one thing, and I think we need to get better hold on absentee landlords, because I feel like that's a large part of the problem. And I think with the increase in rental registrations, that will help some of the issue, not all of it, but I'm really looking forward to increasing the number of rental properties within the city that are going to be registered, and we could get them to better comply with the ordinances. And also accessibility of the city, that goes hand in hand with walkability, like we've been talking about these past few weeks. I would really like to see a larger scale sidewalk repair program, because our sidewalks throughout the city are a mess, and that's something that I'm personally very interested in working on. An increase in our businesses and startups. I have certainly seen some of that, but that's going to take time, and I want to see more and more of it. And it also is difficult for me to walk around downtown and then see all these empty storefronts, where I feel like there could be, and I think of all the different businesses that could go through those places, and so I'd love to see more and more of that. Also, keeping the college students here after they graduate. I want to see more of them deciding to stick around in Scranton and investing in Scranton, and increasing the number of pilots that we have. I know is a goal, I think, for all of us to see that number increase. And then just continuing the parks improvements, getting the pool at NAOG. Those are very important to me, too. That's everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rothchild. Mr. McAndrew?
Yes, thank you. So we did discuss in caucus that a couple streets are going to get bumped off the paving list, and I'm glad. I'm not, I'm sure they're not happy, and I understand their frustration as well. But I'm glad we're doing this with some better communication we've received from American Water, because in the past they wouldn't tell us, and we would have paved this and they'd be digging it up. So with that said, that leaves open some paving, right? So I like to know, reach out to administration. So since a couple are coming off the list, are there other ones going on the list? Because they should be going, if you're going to do it in 24, there'll be separate money for that. And with that said, somebody reached out to me today. So it's the 2100 of Parkhurst Place in Trips Park. All the court is paved from Main to Fillmore except for this one block. It's between Far Street and Dorothy. So can you see if that's a possibility, since we have a couple openings?
I will, Mr. McAndrew.
Thank you. And so for the past couple weeks, I've been talking about, and everybody's in an uproar, about, God bless these people who have structural fires, that they're receiving bills that, no one's ever heard before. We're told it's been going on forever. Solicitor Gallagher sent a letter to administration asking, to stop this, and also asking what? For bills for how long, Mr. Gallagher? I don't have it in front of me. Like for the past 10 years?
I believe it was since the first ordinance.
First, 99?
Yeah, 99. So I believe the letter went back to 99.
All right, so we're told this has been occurring, I'm sorry. We're told this has been occurring forever, and obviously it's not, because no one ever heard of it. It's happening, it's more prevalent now. I received a call right before I got here today of a poor guy who, his property was hit by lightning on Blair Avenue a couple weeks ago, right? A couple weeks ago, lost everything. Right, his daughter was living in this house that he bought. He lost everything, and less than 6 days, the only correspondence he got in that 6 days was a bill for $8,400 to his house. After losing everything, in that state of mind, to receive this bill that supposedly there's an ordinance that says we're allowed to do it. I've yet to find it. I looked. I brought up a couple weeks ago. 3 ordinances, the one that was from 1999, 2000, and then 2021. All 3 of them ordinances only refer to vehicles. All right, so a vehicle spill or an accident, and the only thing amended in them the 2 previous ordinances is the fee schedule. So the prices went up. So I'm okay with that. If a vehicle comes from out of town, it's a truck delivering and has an accident and there's a gasoline spill, of course we want the fire department there. Of course, they probably should charge them, and it goes on, on their car insurance. But my problem is, and my fear right now is, now that it's out there, and I hear more and more about it all the time, that the fire department, and I'm not blaming the firefighters because they never heard of it, they don't really want to do it, but they're required to do it, that people, when they start hearing that they might pay $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $8,000, I'm afraid they're going to not call the fire department. I'm afraid they're going to try to put out a fire themselves and endanger themselves, or even, God forbid, lose a family member because of that. So with that said, I want to make a motion tonight that asking the city to stop issuing structural bills for fires, okay? And with that said, and then, I don't think there's an ordinance we can amend because there's nothing in there about structure. So Solicitor Gallagher, you can take a look at that for us to see what actions we can take, even create a new ordinance or whatever. But for tonight, I just want to make a motion to send a message to the administration, this building, that this needs to stop.
I'll second that.
So we're in 5th order right now. We'll make a motion in the...
Yeah, I just made the motion.
Oh, okay.
Second it, and then you have to vote.
All right. So there's been a motion and a second to send correspondence to the, I guess would be the mayor's office, the administration, perhaps the fire department, but you should go to the mayor's office and then
requesting them to stop.
Requesting them to cease and desist with the
Structural billing.
the building, right, the billing for structural fires. On the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McAndrew. I should have announced this in 3rd order. We did have an executive session this evening to discuss pending litigation, Stillip versus City of Scranton. It's 3-2022-CV01172. And as it relates to open burn litigation. Okay, I have a few items here from last week, Mrs. Schumacher, regarding the concrete barrier at the entrance to the Biden Expressway at Jefferson Avenue. PennDOT District Traffic Studies and Safety Supervisor advised that they're working with their pavement marking delineation people on the solution. They're considering installing reflective delineators and possibly painting the leading edge depending on the condition of the concrete. Len Shrebro was here last week regarding the North Dewey Avenue and Lafayette Street. The City Public Works Director advised that DPW will place the drainage issue on their list and schedule as time and staffing permits. Mr. Argenta sent all issues and concerns regarding the Weston Field complex to code enforcement, LIPS, and the Scranton Police Department. Will advise responses and any next steps as received. I was mentioned earlier, Rubicon will now be coming in September. Let me see a few other things here. Okay. The Pocket Park on Linden and Wyoming seems to be almost at a halt, I would say, at this stage of the game, but we're going to reach out to Scranton tomorrow and find out what's going on. From what I understand, the next step is to just lay down the electric, whatever needs to be put down there. And then I guess, I don't know if there's gravel and dirt and landscaping is needed to finish that project. I don't know if they ran out of money or what the situation is, but we're going to reach out to Scranton tomorrow to try to get an answer on that. The clock at Lackawanna Avenue, a group is coming on the 13th of July from Ohio to, take a look at that. And I believe that the city, the administration is in conversation with Steamtown concerning the elevator issues at the raised pocket park downtown. So the mayor did bring that up to me today when I spoke to her. In terms of the walkability study, Mrs. Schumacher indicated nothing changes. Well, I can't sit here and tell you flat out that I'm full on 100% for this full walkability study. I can tell you that I'm going to keep an open mind. I think that something needs to be done. I know myself. I use the city sometimes as a pass-through when I'm going over like the West Side or Kaiser Avenue, and it's human nature. You're trying to get that next green light and not be stuck. And is it appropriate? Probably not. Is it dangerous? Probably. You have a tendency to drive quicker trying to get to those lights. So, I mean, do I think that all the lights need to come out? Do I think that there can be certain changes that need to be put in place? I believe so. I think there are things we can do to make this city safer, and I think that walkability study provides a lot of good direction as to some things at least we could try. As I know it's a walkability study, I don't mean to be funny, but we need to walk before we run. So I think there's certain aspects of that we should seriously consider moving forward. Perhaps at the corners or intersections, slightly raised. Like, I don't want to call them, I guess it would be kind of speed bumps, but they'd be raised to assist the disabled, their handicap, and also, I wouldn't want to see, with the stop signs, if there wasn't some mechanism to address those who are visually impaired or hearing impaired. I'm keeping an open mind on that walkability study. I think that there's some great opportunities to make the downtown a better place for our citizens who live in the downtown area and who live and walk, and make it a friendlier place. Some of the things I'd like to see over the next few years, I would like to see more businesses in the downtown. I know we have an incubator center down on Lackawanna Avenue, and there's also one up on the mountain up there in Jessup. So I love to see new businesses come into the city. How to make that happen, not exactly sure, but I believe that there are things that we can do to attract more businesses downtown, and perhaps improving the way that the downtown looks and the way that the downtown runs to make it more business friendly. I do want to, as Dr. Rothchild indicated, want to increase the number of pilots and work. We've met with the school district and talked about different ways to try to attack and go after nonprofits to try to encourage them to contribute more to the city, because we certainly do provide a lot of services for these nonprofits, and they should be helping the city out and contributing. Many of them do things that do benefit the city. There's no two ways about it, but it's a two-way street. Street signs, I would like to see the street sign project completed. That's very important for our city. Mr. McAndrew and several others mentioned blight needs to be addressed. There's no two ways about it, and Mr. Argenta is always bringing up those issues. There's no two ways about it that we need to address blight and make our city cleaner. And I applaud, Mr. Smurl and his group that go around and they're trying to do their part, volunteering. There used to be an old saying, we all need to be part of the solution. Well, I think that, part of it is education and trying to get people to realize, hey, if each and every one of us took care of our own block, took care of our own house, and, making sure that littering, we need to have a cleaner city to attract more people here and to make our city look more welcoming. But the bottom line is people need to be conscientious, instead of throwing cigarettes or throwing their cups and Dunkin' Donuts and McDonald's and things. People they have no problem, just throw it on the street, and to me that's appalling. So we as a city need to, maybe provide more trash receptacles around the city, and maybe, make sure that we have a program with our DPW to try to get around and address some of these properties at major intersections and corners and entrances to the city. That's important to me. I also want to see a pool at Naog Park, and I want to see that project completed over the next few years. Naog Park, I think, is a gem. It's a beautiful, one of our many beautiful parks in the city, but that is certainly lacking. So that's something I'd really like to see. Our new zoning ordinance has disallowed any additional surface parking lots in downtown Scranton. I'm thrilled about that. We don't need any more surface parking lots. I'd like to see buildings on those open lots or parks, but something that is going to attract more business. And I know that Mr. Basilega is looking to put a building down on the corner of I guess it would be Mulberry and Franklin, I believe. So I look forward to seeing things like that happen and more businesses opening, within our city. Roads paved. I want to see us continually and constantly trying to keep our roads paved in the best condition as possible. And for those that, when the money dries up and it's hard to get that paving done, to at least get out and make sure that we're on top of getting potholes fixed so that people can drive and walk and bike safely in the city. So that's a cross-section of some of the things I'd like to see over the next few years to make our city a better place. Thank you.
5B for introduction, a resolution advocating for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to raise the minimum wage.
This time I'll entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second?
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. So moved.
5C for introduction, a resolution, appointment of Laurel Downs, Scranton, Pennsylvania, as first alternate member of the Environmental Advisory Council for a term of 3 years. Laurel Downs' term is effective June 1st, 2023, and will expire on May 31st, 2026.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5C is introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second?
On the question, All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5D for introduction, a resolution, appointment of Tara Jones, Scranton, Pennsylvania, as second alternate member of the Environmental Advisory Council for a term from June 1st, 2023, and will expire May 31st, 2025.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5D be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second?
On the question.
On the question, included, well, not included with this document was Tara Jones's resume. So, Mr. Voldenberg, if we could just ask for the resume to be attached.
I will, sir.
Thank you.
All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Sixth order, 6A, reading by title, filed to Council Number 74, 2023, an ordinance authorizing the removal of the existing no parking signs located in the 1700 block of Ash Street and replacing those signs with new R7302 no parking symbol arrow signs at adequate intervals along both sides of the 1700 block of Ash Street and memorialize this no parking zone within section 43925C of the City Code.
You've heard reading by title of item 6A. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that item 6A pass reading by title.
Second?
On the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6B, reading by title, file to Council Number 75, 2023, an ordinance establishing S1-1 school signs on all approaches to Lincoln Jackson Academy to the campus on Dixon Avenue and Electric Street, establishing a crosswalk across Dixon Avenue to the parking lot in front of Lincoln Jackson Academy, establishing a designated pull-off area for students being dropped off and picked up near the crosswalk, establishing a crosswalk at the intersection of Dixon Avenue and Electric Street, establishing a no parking zone from point 20 feet east of the easterly curb line of the driveway to the rear parking lot of Michael's School off of Electric Street to a point 20 feet west of the westerly curb line of the driveway to the rear parking lot of Michael's School off of Electric Street to improve traffic operations, pedestrian safety, and maintain adequate sight distance in a school zone.
You've heard reading by title of item 6B. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that item 6B pass reading by title.
Second?
On the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Seventh order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for adoption, filed to Council Number 67, 2023, installing a multi-way stop at the intersection of Capouse Avenue and Poplar Street to allow adequate sight distance for westerly Poplar Street vehicles.
What's the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second?
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B, for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for adoption, filed to Council Number 68, 2023, establishing a multi-way stop at the intersection of South Irving Avenue and Birch Street to allow adequate sight distance for vehicles exiting South Irving Avenue.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of item 7B.
Second?
On the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted.
7C, for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for adoption, filed to Council Number 69, 2023, establishing a multi-way stop at the intersection of South Bromley Avenue and Washburn Street to allow adequate sight distance for vehicles exiting South Bromley Avenue.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage on item 7C.
Second?
On the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7C legally and lawfully adopted.
7D for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for adoption, file to Council number 70, 2023, establishing a multi-way stop at the intersection of North Sumner Avenue and Theodore Street with installation of stop bars at all stop sign locations and 4 feet behind crosswalks where appropriate, with installation of school signs on Theodore Street on each approach to the school campus, and installation of speed limit signs on Theodore Street at appropriate intervals to improve traffic operations and pedestrian safety in a school zone.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of item 7D.
Second.
On the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7D legally and lawfully adopted.
7E for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for adoption, file to Council number 71, 2023, establishing a multi-way stop at the intersection of North Lincoln Avenue and Theodore Street with installation of stop bars at all stop sign locations and 4 feet behind crosswalks where appropriate, with installation of school signs on Theodore Street on each approach to the school campus and installation of speed limit signs on Theodore Street at appropriate intervals to improve traffic operations and pedestrian safety in a school zone.
What's the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of item 7E.
Second.
On the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7E legally and lawfully adopted.
7F for consideration by the Committee on Rules for adoption, file to Council number 72, 2023, creating a sidewalk cafe and parklet program to replace the City of Scranton's previous special encroachment permit parking.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7F.
Second?
On the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7F legally and lawfully adopted.
7G for consideration by the Committee on Rules for adoption, resolution number 263, 2023, appointment of Selena Andiapan, Scranton, Pennsylvania, to the position of Executive Director of the Office of Economic and Community Development, effective June 19, 2023.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7G.
Second?
On the question.
On the question, I spoke about this one for the last several weeks. I would like to see individuals that come for these positions come in front of council for council's advice and consent prior to their beginning work in the job. Not sure who did the vetting on this one, but I mean, when we're just looking up at the backup information, we see that our resume hasn't even been updated. It doesn't even reflect the work we've done in the city so far since we've been employed here. We also work two full-time jobs, it looks like, so are we going to be dedicating all of our time to the city of Scranton? So when it comes to the vetting, I'm not sure if it's all been properly done, and I'm going to continue my stance this week and vote no for the passage of 7G.
Roll call, please.
Nope. So on the question, I've been begging for a handbook for 3 years. We get one. In May, it states that advice and consent is required before an appointment of certain positions, this being one of them. And it's also in the charter. So this is nothing personal, this young lady, but this, my vote is about policy and procedure. We're constantly reminded as council members from the administration, you got to follow the rules. You can't have this meeting, you can't do this, you can't do that, but they need to follow the rules. So that's why I'll be voting no.
On the question, I did have a conversation with the mayor with expressing this concern. I believe moving forward that anyone that would possibly be sent up for advice and consent to the council will be interim until full advice and consent is voted on by council.
Wait a second. So I could see interim if it's an employee like this one who's already working for City Hall. So that's people take on interim positions when they're within an organization. But to hire someone as an interim and then send it down to us, I don't like that. I could see it with a lateral move or another move within. But when you call something interim, that means that you're covering until another one's, or acting, you're covering until that position's filled. You know what I mean? Normally.
Right. No, I get it. But it still allows council to vote no. Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
No.
Dr. Rothschild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
No.
Mr. King?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7G legally and lawfully adopted.
Eighth order, 8A, filed to council number 62, 2023.
This ordinance is the HUD 2023 Annual Action Plan. It's been tabled for 30 days to allow for public comment.
8B, filed to council number 64, 2023.
This ordinance is creating overtime reporting requirements for all city departments and employees. It's been tabled until we receive additional information from the administration.
8C, resolution number 254, 2023.
This resolution is the appointment of Coney Bennett to the City Planning Commission. It has been tabled until we receive residents' address. I believe that she has not responded to the city, so I believe that next week we're going to move this back into sixth order and vote on it. And more than likely it'll be voted down. Since we're not getting a response or getting the information we're asking for. So that'll happen next week. If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Meeting's adjourned.